So regardless of where you are in the world, you probably have noticed how people are a little bit more worried, concerned, and stressed, or delusional. It depends where they're sitting on the stress curve these days. It's pretty hard to argue that for most people, life has become a little bit more difficult in the last 3 to 4 years. So it is a good question when we are entering 2025 to ask, what will the future bring? You know, we have started the year with the LA fires, war in Gaza, war in the Ukraine. Trump has been elected, so some people are feeling really positive about that, but other people are feeling really, really worried about the fact that Trump has been elected. This is not a political discourse, so we don't really care about that. What we do care about is where are people at the emotional, at the well-being, at the mental health level, you know, and where is the world sitting at? So Emmy and myself, we were having a conversation about this, and since that is going to be the topic of our next magazine, what will the future bring, and what can we do in order to meet it? So we thought we'd do a small video and talk about some of the issues that are happening at the moment.
And I would say from the conversations that I'm having with people in organizations around the world, the word that pops to mind of where people are at right now is uncertain. There's that question, like we don't know what's going to happen this year, we don't know where things are going, and we're just in that sort of limbo waiting to see. Right. And that's an uncomfortable place for people to sit in, just in limbo, unsure.
Do they say what's worrying them? Some of the things
people normally can't really articulate. It's a sense, and I'm normally speaking with HR managers, workplace health and safety officers, senior level leaders, and so there's a concern for where are we going with our company, or what's going to happen and how's the year going to unfold for our company, but particularly for our teams, for our staff, and how do we help people stay focused, stay well, and come into the new year with energy and enthusiasm to achieve what we can through the year. But that uncertainty piece is one that people as humans really struggle with. Yeah,
the one that keeps coming up in my forums is the change to the way we work with AI, with artificial intelligence. I mean, at the professional level, I think there would not be a professional in the earth right now that has not heard of ChatGPT. Yeah. Or I found out the other day that ChatGPT is not the only one. There's a number of those that are available, which is basically artificial intelligence brought into the workplace and basically doing our jobs sometimes faster than we can do it ourselves. And we like delusionally to believe that we can do it better. But the reality is that just recently, ChatGPT was able to pass the lawyer's exam the bar exam in the US at a very comfortable level. So what does that mean for the legal profession? What does it mean for the psychologist profession? Yeah. What does it mean for any human services related profession when there are algorithms, there are artificial intelligence tools now that can provide the answer?
So one of the big questions that I see people asking, obviously, is, am I going to be replaced? Am I still going to be needed as a human being, or can a robot do my job and they won't need me anymore? And I can tell you from the profession of psychology, this is a really interesting one, because I actually know people who've started to use ChatGPT to ask the questions that they would be asking to a therapist, for example. And so I've spoken with a friend of mine who says, well, my ChatGPT therapist tells me X, Y, Z, this is what I should do to solve my problem. And that's kind of scary. But there's a problem with it, I think. I'm keen to hear your thoughts too. First of all, the way that the algorithms work right now is they're getting all of the information that's out there in the cloud online and sort of putting that forward. So the feedback you're going to get, the advice you're going to get, is going to be a standard traditional approach in terms of what's the most common advice that's out there. It's not necessarily going to be tailored to your specific situation and your specific case. it's also going to be the sort of mainstream traditional line, which may not suit everybody. So I think there's a bit of a risk there.
I agree, but I mean, is this a matter of, of people going for what's the cheapest available help, not rather the best help available?
Yes.
So either way, it is reducing the likelihood of people using our services, not just psychologists, but all across, lawyers, like we said before. But also in the manual space, people say, well, if you have a manual job, surely the robots won't be able to do that. But the answer is yet, because we already know about Uber being driverless, delivery trucks being driverless. So we know that the technology has been there for a while, and what will happen to those jobs as well. So I think for a human being, people say, well, we have enough money in the world for the robots to do the work, and we just don't work. But that also brings other issues in mind. As human beings, we need to produce. We need to do something. We need to share ourselves and our wisdom and our gifts with fellow human beings in order to be happy. An isolated human being is not usually a happy human being. So there are new areas opening.
I mean, even if you get paid a payment to not work,
what do?
You sit at home and watch Netflix
do nothing?
and eat junk food all day, or
what do you do?
I mean,
So that idea of do I have value as a human being? It's a very important question because self-esteem is attached to that. A self-esteem question.
My value is only in what I produce in the workplace. Surely not.
No, what you produce for others, what you give to others. Your ability to give to others is very much attached to our levels of confidence, our levels of self-esteem, etc. Also, when we give to others, there's something that happens that, there's an old saying that says there's more happiness in giving than there is in receiving. So you can receive a lot and feel empty. You can't ask the questions. When we access ChatGPT as an advisor or a counselor, we need to have a very clear understanding of the problem in order to know which questions to ask.
Yes.
So that means that in order for me to ask the right questions, I need to have solved my problem previously.
Already.
But I'm still in the problem. That means that whatever questions I'm going to ask are not the ones that I need to ask to get myself out of the problem.
And that's what a third person human does, is
exactly.
they have that perspective and the training to ask the right questions.
And probably the experience, more likely the experience. They've traveled that road before, so they know exactly which questions to ask you to go for. You go to go, okay, that's how I got myself into this situation. Because many times we find ourselves in life right in a hole, and we don't know how we got there. Because obviously, I'm the smartest person in the world, so why isn't my life working exactly perfectly? Right, because I have all the answers. We have that kind of arrogance, human arrogance, that of thinking that, how we think is the right way of thinking. So if how I think is the right way of thinking, that means I don't have the capacity or the insight to ask the questions that will get me out of the hole.
It's that quote from Einstein, I think it was. You can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it.
Exactly.
You need to be outside
exactly.
of it, and you can't do that.
And the way it works with ChatGPT or any AI at the moment is that you need to know which questions to ask it in order for it to give you a relevant answer. And then there's the other aspect. At the moment, the technology is such that it's not perfect. So you might not be getting the best answers.
But I think even if you do, there's still an extra element that comes, and this is across professions, with having that human interaction. And in a workplace or a world now where many people are working from home, behind a screen, we're having less and less real human, tangible connections and interactions. And that leaves us missing something. It leaves us missing some meaning, missing some connection. I mean, the research, Lambert in psychology has said when they studied different types of therapeutic approaches and what works best, they discovered it wasn't necessarily the type of therapeutic approach, it was the relationship that the person had with their helper, with their therapist, with their counselor, with their psychologist. That was what made the biggest difference. And so as soon as you know you're talking to a machine, to a technology, that I think it lacks something.
Yeah.
It may still be useful, it may give you a starter, but it's, as you said,
There's also the other aspect of you need to understand that when you're talking to an artificial intelligence robot, because that's what they are, they're devoid of emotions. So in psychology, we call that a psychopath.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. So when you're talking to an AI, you're talking to a psychopath.
Yep.
So the psychopath will look the most logical answer, not necessarily the one that is couched in ethical and moral considerations, not a wise answer.
Takes in the full context.
Yeah. So a psychopath may usually comes up with the answer, oh, well, the fastest way to do away with the problem is to eliminate the problem. In mental health, eliminating the problem usually involves suicide. Eliminating you. So you got to be very careful.
A therapist is never going to say that.
No, well, you hope not. You know, that's not part of the repertoire.
Right.
We try to help people get meaning back into their lives. So those are considerations. You know, we're talking about a tool that makes decisions, that is able to use rationale and logic, but at the same time, it lacks emotions. And emotions are important, and feelings. A moral compass. And can technology, can it grow beyond that? Maybe, but that's where we are right now. And this is what the future brings.
So we've got uncertainty with AI and robots and technology and all of that.
Climate change is another one that is worrying people.
Yes.
You know, and then there's the wars around the world, and the whole political system, how we're progressing at the moment. So this is a few things that are worrying people.
On a really individual, personal level, I think finances are a big one for a lot of people out there.
Inflation is so big.
Cost of living has increased, so workers are demanding more. I want more pay. Actually, we just wrapped up an employee wellbeing assessment for a large multinational corporation, and asks employees about what are the things that are impacting on their mental health and well-being, both at work and at home, and across the board. That financial stress is a big one for a lot of people. So then they're coming to work wanting more from the workplace, which doesn't necessarily have it to provide, and so
it's an interesting situation in which we're in at the moment.
So what light can we bring to this situation? What support is there for people to cope with uncertainty? How do we deal with it?
We've been teaching people how to cope with change and uncertainty for years.
Yeah.
So the same principles apply, I mean, it's true that one of the issues at the moment, people say, well, I can learn ChatGPT, I can learn a new profession. But I think people are getting to a stage where they may be experiencing learning fatigue. I mean, how many new technologies do I have to learn in a lifetime?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not that old, and we used to have music in long plays, LPs, in vinyl. And then they invented the tape.
What do you mean
and we used to. But it's not that old, but But then they invented the tape, so we transferred the music from the vinyls to the tapes, and then they invented something else, the CDs, and then the DVDs, and then they had that before. They had the Steve Jobs one. They would put thousands of the iPod, and we transferred all that music into iPod. That became obsolete, and then now we've got Spotify. Right, and this is within a few decades.
Yeah.
So how many things do we need to learn to keep up with the technology? And then we seem to not be catching up with technology anymore. Now technology is passing us because we have bots that can actually program themselves and create new programs.
It's interesting because I'm tired just listening to you talk about that, and it makes you want to go, forget it, I don't want any of it, put me on an island and let me just live my life.
And maybe that is, in an esoteric way, that may be something that needs to be done. We need to go back into tools like meditation and or relaxation techniques, prayer for those that are so inclined, and connect to something greater than ourselves. Because if we try to, as individuals, have the answers to unanswerable questions, we're going to create more stress.
And I really think there is that need to disconnect from this world of being of digital and connect to humans, connect to nature, connect to the real solid.
And we need to make a concerted effort to connect with our family members. You know, it worries me the amount of families that I see in restaurants where they're all looking, or even couples that have gone out for a date night and they're looking at their phones the whole time. You are with your loved one right across you, and you're on social media. We need to stop that. We need to make a concerted effort.
That stimulation, isn't
We're
it?
beyond the addiction.
I mean,
We need to make a concerted effort to connect with our fellow human beings, whoever they are, right next to us.
Also, even I know I'm guilty of this myself. I sat there and there's a pause in the conversation for half a second, and the brain goes, I'm bored, I need more more stimulation, I need more entertainment, what else is there? And there's a constant stream just over here.
I know.
So, and I think it's really, really interesting. In the shops the other day, there's the little phone jails that you can buy. And I got one just for fun. And you put the telephone in, you put your mobiles in there, you lock it, it's got a timer and all of that. I think that says something about the fact that this product exists, says something about the desire of people to do that, to disconnect from that, connect to something else.
So there's great stuff about technology, but it's about the technology will push us away from each other, and we need to make an intentional effort to connect back with each other. Be kind to each other, be loving to each other, husbands to wives, wives to husbands. Start serving each other. Kids to parents. Kids used to have chores. Now they seem to, the chore is the first thing is the phone, the screens. We need to stop that. We need to get back to nature. To start running, start shooting balls, start climbing trees, whatever it is. Break your arm from time to time. You know, I mean, when was the last time? When was the last time you saw a kid in a cast? I haven't seen them for a while. We used to always have somebody with a broken arm before when we were kids. Now, where are those kids? What happened to them? You know,
it's true.
So that's the first thing we need to do. Just put the phone down, put the screen down, and talk to your neighbor, and talk to the person behind the cashier at the shop. You know, connect.
So this, I think, also relates to one of the findings from that employee wellbeing survey that I said we did. One of the really interesting findings that came out of that was that we're seeing increased rates of depression relative to other mental health concerns. So traditionally, it has always been a certain percentage of the population will experience high levels of stress, slightly less people will experience diagnosable rates of anxiety, and then depression, if that remains unchecked, it can lead into depression. And that was a smaller percentage. It has always been around 6% in most Western countries anyway. What we've seen in the latest research is that that's been flipped. So now we're seeing more people with depression than anxiety, knowing that, of course, they often come together, the two of them. But it's gone the other way around, which says to me, my theory on this is that as a society, collectively, we've moved beyond being stressed and anxious and uptight about things to, I'm past that point and I don't care anymore, I give up.
Or maybe the anxiety stage is so short that it immediately moves into depression. Who knows?
But it's definitely, and then this prompted us and our team to do a bit more research into it, and we're definitely seeing that those depression levels are rising around the world. So in the next few years, I think we'll start to see the statistics reflecting that more and more, which is a real shame.
It's also an opportunity for mental health to moving from studying illness to studying wellness. You know, I mean, we know a lot about anxiety, depression, etc. But do we know enough about people that wake up happy every day and they're looking forward to go to work and they live successful lives?
Well, we do. Those of us who've studied that part of things, it's called positive psychology. And the key one there is meaning, which we touched on earlier. Meaning is almost the antidote to that uncertainty, isn't it? Meaning and contribution and all of those things.
So we need to bring that more back into it. But I think the first step is connect with each other, connect to other human beings, and stop judging other people as evil when they don't agree with you. That's something that I've seen that in the last few years has grown exponentially. If people don't agree with my ideas, somehow they're evil
And
immediately, and they're out. They cannot be my friend.
Cancelled.
If they vote Trump, they can't be my friend. So if they vote Biden, they cannot be my friend. You have a right to do that, but I think you're going to isolate yourself, and you don't bring any unity to the world.
As long as you have people in your life, there's going to be a point on which you disagree.
Yeah.
You know, every single person in your life, there's going to be something you don't agree with them about.
And it doesn't make them toxic.
No, well, it actually means you are appreciating diversity.
Yeah.
Right? And
That's right.
isn't that a lovely thing, to be open to
course.
diversity and have those interesting conversations respectfully, of course. But this is in workplaces. Again, another trend for 2025. There's more and more focus on psychosocial safety, right? Which is about making sure that workplaces are not toxic and that we're looking after, you know, not just physical safety, but mental safety of everybody. But part of that also includes psychological safety. And there's a difference between those two things. Psychosocial safety is from a risk management perspective, and we don't want to put people in risky or hazardous environments. Psychological safety is about feeling free to speak up. I have the psychological safety within my team, for example, to be able to express an idea, an opinion, a thought that might be different to other people's. And so we have this kind of tension between the two, because in order to have psychosocial safety, you have to have psychological safety. But in order to have psychological safety, you have to risk someone disagreeing with you or someone being upset by something you said.
But you need freedom of expression to begin with.
Freedom of expression.
Otherwise, it's not psychologically safe to speak up. Yeah.
So how do we balance these two? And for managers especially, this is a really difficult balance to navigate at the moment.
Well, at the moment we don't have that. We don't have a balance. That's the problem.
And that's something we've built into our latest psychosocial safety training is around this concept. So people are starting to understand, it's important that we allow for the diversity of opinion, diversity of perspective, diversity of experience, and that we have those conversations and discussions, obviously in a respectful and professional manner in the workplace. But getting that balance.
And also to understand that sometimes it doesn't matter how much or how right you think you are. You're not going to convince another person of a point. It's not a solvable problem, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree on everything. What is important that you agree on is to get along and be cordial and be courteous to each other, and hopefully loving to each other too. But anyway, this is a very interesting conversation.
I have a couple of points that I think answer the question. How, if we say 2025 right now, people are in a place of uncertainty, how do we cope with uncertainty? How do we help people to move through uncertainty and live with it? I think number one is look for those points where we do have certainty. So I don't know whether I'm going to be in the same job by the end of 2025, but I do know that I have this skill, this knowledge, this experience, this qualifications. That's something that can never be taken away from me. Look for those points of certainty within the uncertainty.
Yeah, well, the other point is be grateful. Be grateful for where you're at right now. No one knows what the future holds. Sometimes the future is something that is not guaranteed, but we all act as if we have a lot of it. That's not right. But you do know what you do have a lot of is right now, the present moment. And it's called a present, but for a reason. It's because there are gifts with what we already have.
And that's really important to be able to bring our mind back to the present instead of continuously living in the future. What if this happens? What if that happens? And it could be this and it could be that. To be able to say, well, okay, that exists, but right here, right now,
I have this.
Life is good. Right here, right now, I have my friends, or I have whatever it might be. I have all these things.
We used to call it count your blessings, isn't it? Now we call it being grateful.
Or being mindful.
Being mindful. Yeah. Well, mindful is about being right here, right now. But what I'm talking about is about being able to have a list every day of the things that you do really have around you that you take for granted that are amazing.
Yeah.
For example, hot water, or water, clean water, right? A breathable air, a warm bed to be at night, clean roads, clean houses, all those things that we take for granted. Having a friend,
Yes.
instead of saying, I don't have a lot of friends, but I'll have one.
Yeah.
So use that one.
Yeah.
So those little things, appreciate the little
so
things.
simple when you explain it, but it really is the training, that mindset training that people need, and that we talk about in resilience training as well.
Yeah. That's my favorite training,
I know.
the resilience
I know.
training. That's the
Because
best one.
you're practicing really simple things, but they're grounded in solid understanding of how the brain works, how the mind works, and can be just such powerful.
Great.
Can create such powerful shifts for people.
Right. I'm wondering what our listeners consider important in this conversation. I mean, what do you think we can do to have a better future or a better present while thinking about the future?
Yes.
Because we can't guarantee the future. So leave us some comments in the comments, and we look forward to
whatever 2025 brings.
Whatever 2025
it's
brings.
It's an adventure. Let's reframe it in a positive way. How you talk to yourself.
Yeah.
It's going to be an adventure. It's not uncertain.
It definitely is an adventure.
It's exciting. It would be boring if you knew what was coming.
All right. So see you now.
Hi, I'm Emmy Golding, Director of Psychology for the Workplace Mental Health Institute. We hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure to give it the thumbs up. We have more and more videos being released each week, so when you subscribe, you'll get a notification letting you know when a new one's just been published. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and don't miss out on this vital information for yourself, your colleagues, and your loved ones.